All right, Rob Brown here with you on this Thursday morning, August 4th, 2022. Here on Sidelines. And we're going to be joined here in just a moment. Jimmy Hodge on the line with us on his way. I guess you're in Knoxville now. Got a great lineup today. Nathan Parodi just graduated back in May from University of Arkansas. 4-year letterman up there for the Razorbacks out of Lake Travis down in Austin, Texas. Thank you, Dave Cody. I think Dave knows everybody, Jimmy. It's going to be interesting to hear the perspective of somebody just right out of college that knows the deal. Played 2 years under Chad Morris, 2 years under Sam Pittman. We'll get his perspective on the Razorbacks and what he thinks about their future. Section 2, Gary Harris joins us from Tide 100.9 WVUA TV 23 in Tuscaloosa. The latest on the Tide practice is underway, as it is for everybody. 9 o'clock, Olin Buchanan checks in from College Station, texags.com. What's going on with the Aggies? And in Section 4, before then, Frank Duffy, go Tigers, will join us talking some LSU, college football, the big picture. And look, follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live. We are here every Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. East of the Chattahoochee, the Caney Fork, the Johns River. Okay. Up in the Smoky Mountains, we have listeners. I kind of wasn't something other good to eat in there. All right, then. But anyway, Carl Childers is a listener over in Benton, Arkansas. By the way, if you ever have to have a passport, like for a day or two from now, and you've got to fly somewhere out of the country, you can go to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and get you a passport. And when you do it, go to Benton, Arkansas, because that's where the movie Sling Blade was filmed, and you can get a tour. You can go to the Frosty Cream and the Washateria and all those places where Carl frequented. So that's just something to think about if you're doing it. But anyway, Nathan, want to say thank you for taking time out to join us. And I've got a son that just graduated from Auburn in May. You just graduated from University of Arkansas. We got a lot of guys in the Cherry Farm, the Razorbacks. A lot of their kids are in school at Arkansas right now. Damn proud state. I can tell you that because we're broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. A lot of Razorbacks. They're looking in here in the studio right now going, what's he going to say? I'm like, well, I'll tell you what he's going to say is he can call the Hogs with the best of them, but you're a perfect example of what you can do when you go to college and you apply yourself, you bust your ass, you do it the right way, you show up every morning and say, what can I do to help? You've got your degree, you're out in the real world now, but nothing can prepare you for hard work like hard work. And you did it under Chad Morris a couple of years and then Sam Pittman. I'm sure there was good things about Chad Morris, great things about Sam Pittman, but talk about your journey that it took you out of Lake Travis High School down in Austin to get to Arkansas.
Yeah, Chad Morris was at Lake Travis High School for a period of time. He won our first state championship there. And so he went to SMU and when I was still in high school, and he offered me a PWO at SMU. And at that time, I had no offers. That was like my biggest opportunity was taking a preferred walk-on spot at SMU. And then he left SMU and was kind of in the market. He didn't know where he was going to go for a little while. And during that time, I had picked up a preferred walk-on from Wisconsin. And so I was ready to commit to Wisconsin. That's where I really wanted to go. I like the program a lot. And then I hear news that Chad Morris was going to Arkansas, which I've been an Arkansas fan growing up. My dad lived in Little Rock for about 10 years.
Okay.
And
there's the connection. I was wondering.
Yeah. He was a huge Razorback. He was more of a Razorback fan than I was growing up. I kind of got the hog put on me at a young age by him. But I waited for a little while after probably maybe a month or two after Morris had been at Arkansas, and he called me and offered me the same preferred walk-on spot they did at SMU at Arkansas, and so it was a quick decision for me, an easy decision for me. So um, I decided to go there, and yeah, and I absolutely loved it. First years, 2 years really didn't go exactly how we planned. Going 2-10 twice. Definitely isn't fun putting all the work in and showing up and only winning 2 games every year. But in that transition when Morris was leaving and Pittman came in and kind of rebuilt the program a little bit and or a lot of it really, and turned the program entirely around, and just got the players underneath his wing, and everybody wanted to run through a brick wall for him. And he really switched the entire state of Arkansas. The fans deserved a winning team. Arkansas is a really football driven state, and they love their Razorbacks, and the fans deserve a team that could compete in the SEC and win ball games. And we hadn't been that in a while, and Pittman coming in changed that, and really gave the whole state a lot of hope.
Yeah, and again, I live in Memphis. I spend a lot of time over in Parkin and Wynn, duck hunting. Good God, been doing that over 1,000 times. Going up next week to Hardy on the Spring River trout fishing with some friends from Alabama. I love it over here. And if you live in Memphis, it's almost like you live in Arkansas and Mississippi. But you're right. You cross that bridge, it's one team, one state. I like Sam Pittman's quote, "Damn proud state." And on our intro that we run on the show a lot, he's in that intro when he's talking about in the locker room after the Texas win last year. And I'm sure you were there, and it was pretty damn emotional. And he said, listen, when these folks in Arkansas get up tomorrow morning to go to Waffle House or church or whatever they do, you've given them a reason to be proud, the damn Arkansas Razorbacks. And Sam Pittman was a guy, Nathan, that a lot of people, including me and Jimmy Hodge, were familiar with. I mean, he'd been at Arkansas, goes to Georgia, but Tommy Tuberville, our friend, who's now a U.S. Senator from Alabama, had coached at Auburn. And when he was at Cincinnati, he hired Sam Pittman after they'd been let go at Tennessee. Was there for about a month, but that Arkansas offensive line opportunity came along, and him growing up in Grove near the Oklahoma-Arkansas line, it was an easy move for him. How much did playing in that intense, highly competitive high school football down in Texas, Lake Travis High School, everybody knows about South Lake Carroll and all that. My friend Dave Cody, I've known for about 40 years. He was like going, you need to get Nathan Parodi on your show. And after talking to you, I was like, man, I said, Dave, Dave knows, I think Dave knows everybody. But you grew up in a wild culture, but you always wanted to be a Razorback. You almost were a Badger.
Mm-hmm.
You were prepared for the task when you got to Fayetteville, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Going from just the culture to Lake Travis weight room to just the structure they have there, and how important football is at Lake Travis. I think I was prepared more than 99% of high schoolers going into college, just from how my life was structured in the last, I guess, 3 years of high school, just going through the football program at Lake Travis. Their workouts are very simple, connected and based off of college workouts. We had coaches that had came from colleges and implemented their workouts. And so they pushed us really hard, got us mentally and physically tough and prepared for that next level. That was kind of like their goal the whole time, is to get you ready for college, both mentally and physically. Weight room is very big. The weight program there is very strict and hardcore. You're pushing sleds out in the heat. We have a whole summer routine that we go through, and it's hard, especially for a high schooler. And the way they dissect film too, like all the team meetings and film that we get to watch is next level. It really is. And so moving to college, just like the overall structure of things was pretty similar, and I felt really well prepared.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, and you were an all-conference punt returner. Special teams are a third of every game, so my thumbs up and salute to you for that. Jimmy Hodge, you used to live down there in South Texas, San Antonio. You've probably been to a Lake Travis before.
Well, not actually Lake Travis. At that time, Austin Westlake was um, really big in that area, and it was just after I left that Lake Travis really started to be a power. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan. Did Todd Dodge also coach at Lake Travis?
Coach Dodge coached at Westlake.
Okay, well, and I knew the coach before Todd, who had been there a long time, and he coached Drew Brees there, and they'd had a successful run for a long time, and then um, um, everybody was aware of the emergence of Lake Travis, and Chad won a bunch of state championships there, and then now from there, was that when Chad went to Clemson, or what was his kind of coaching path to Clemson? Because he was such a big factor in their emergence. Yeah. Because when he became the offensive coordinator there, they had Taj Boyd, who was a great quarterback for them, and then Deshaun Watson, and then it just kind of went on, with that quarterback chain. But Chad was such a big factor when Dabo brought him in, and of course he went to SMU and then Arkansas. So I guess what I really wanted to know, because Chad had such great success at Lake Travis, and then when he went from SMU to Arkansas, a big criticism was that his relationship with the players at Arkansas was not great. He brought in a lot of, quality players who've been significant contributors since Sam has gotten to Arkansas. But what was it like? Was he a different person in high school at Lake Travis as a high school coach in relating to players than he was at Arkansas? Or just how did all that kind of shake out?
Yeah, I definitely think he changed a little bit going into college. He went to Tulsa, and then I think he was about the same. And then when he hit Clemson um, and had a bunch of success or something changed. Great guy, but he didn't have the team under his feet at Arkansas. I think it was more so the people he hired and the staff around him than Coach Morris himself. Um, but the locker room is very separated. There's a lot of toxic tendencies going around, and it just wasn't a very united team, and it wasn't a very motivated team. And especially after the first year, I think players got used to losing, which is something you never want to have. Obviously, you want to win every game, and you should think to yourself that you should win every game. But players got complacent and lost a lot of trust in the coaches, and just got used to losing, and thought like people would walk in the locker room after a game and act like they don't care because it's our seventh loss of the season or something. Um, I think Coach Morris, he had a rough shot getting into the SEC, but I think more so it was his staff around him and the people he had working around him that was more so the problem than Chad Morris himself. He was a great recruiter, but there was a disconnect between the team and him at his time in Arkansas.
Yeah, and
well, when Sam came in, did you detect a distinct difference from day one, from the first time you saw him, the first meeting he had with you guys, or did it take a little time, to get used to him, and because he was obviously assembling his staff and all of that? So, how long did it take to really adjust to the next coaching staff?
I think it was actually really quick. Obviously, the people at least around my age in the 2018 class, 2018 to 2019, didn't have a lot of trust in coaches, given that we had a lot of coaches coming and going in my first 2 years. And so, and the people the year before me had probably a total of like 3 different head coaches or position coaches circulating every year. And so it's just very unstable environment. But when Pittman came, I'd say about like 80% of the locker room right away just loved his demeanor and how genuine he seemed, and his proudness for the state of Arkansas. Because you could just tell the moment he walked in the locker room how much he loved the University of Arkansas, and you could tell that the University of Arkansas was his dream job and he didn't want to leave there. One of the first things he said is that he's wanted to be the head coach of University of Arkansas all his life, and that's his final stop. He doesn't plan on leaving ever. He wants to retire there. And
Nathan, if you could hold that thought, we got to take a quick break because I want to develop more about this first meeting with Sam Pittman, and we're going to do it after this quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Nathan Parodi talking about the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Nathan, I was telling my wife during the break, just the way you described that first meeting with Sam Pittman. And I think about how excited he was. And sure, there was money. I mean, it's a lot of money, but that wasn't the thing. He was like, I've wanted this job all my life, and keep talking about that first meeting in the locker room with a locker room full of guys who'd lost a lot that needed hope.
Yeah, I mean, you said it exactly. You could tell just by his demeanor and his tone of voice and the words he was saying that he didn't care about the money at all. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about trying to find the next great, not trying to climb the ladder and find the next great position to go to. That's where he wanted to be. That's where he wanted to be his whole life, and you could tell that he reached that goal. That was a dream of his. He actually cried during the first meeting, just how he was soaking it all in, and it was overwhelming to him that he was actually in the position that he was. And he promised us all that he would love us and support all of us throughout all our journeys, even beyond football. And I'd say 99% of people believed it off day one, the first few minutes that he walked into the locker room. You could just tell. And it took about probably a month or two of just going into training and like summer workouts and stuff, that the entire vibe and culture of the locker room had switched. We had a lot of people leave the team that I'll say it could be a little cancerous or toxic to the team, bring the team down. Get rid of some of those guys, and everybody else that stayed completely believed in Sam Pittman. And he's hard not to like. He's just a genuine dude. Exactly what you see on camera is exactly how he is in the locker room. He treats every player the exact same, and that's one thing he told us too. He promised that walk-on scholarship, preferred walk-on, doesn't matter what you are, transfer. He treats everybody the same, and he's done that since he's been here. So he's held his promise. And yeah, he's just a friendly guy that people want to gravitate towards, and they want to play for. And so he's an easy guy to play for.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine's nephew, Patrick Kudus, signed with the Razorbacks out of Christian Brothers High School at my school in Memphis. He'll be a freshman up there, a big lineman, and he is really excited about going up to Fayetteville. But I bet it was really important when Sam Pittman was in that locker room and he said, I'm not going to be like coaches that say, when I get my players in here, we're going to have a lot of success. Y'all are my players and I love you. That had to carry a hell of a lot of weight, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and that's exactly what he said too. He said he wasn't searching for anybody. He said everybody he needs to win is in the room right now, and the players definitely appreciated that and love to hear that. Because as a new coaching staff comes in there, oftentimes they sweep everybody out, throw the old players under the rug because they're not their players that they recruited. So and it happens everywhere. It happens all the time. It's just the business. But he made it a point that that wasn't going to happen, that he was going to support all the people that were in Arkansas at that time, and they're all his players. And so he was going to love us and support us and make us all better. And that's on and off the field, too. And he definitely delivered on that. He didn't go back on his word at all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Jimmy, from playing college football at Louisiana Monroe and UT Chattanooga, if you're going to work people harder than rented mules, you better love them and they better love you and believe in what you're doing. Isn't it? That correct?
Well, sure. But what really stuck out to me was when, Sam got the Arkansas job. It certainly wasn't for the money because he took that job at well below market value because he was, I think, the highest paid offensive line coach in the country. And he was
correct.
Really famous for his skill, in that part of the game. And then, after just that first season, I think it was obvious that, Arkansas was going in the right direction because they immediately revised his contract, and then they did it again this past off season. And in my mind, when I watched that first game against Georgia, I was just really stunned at how, competitive Arkansas was in that game. And a lot of people don't realize not only was Arkansas up 7-0, 10-0, they also had a 95-yard touchdown pass called back. And even though the score didn't indicate it, I was just really impressed at how competitive Arkansas was. And what I wanted to know, Nathan, was even in that first season, and of course we know the fiasco that took place at Auburn, Arkansas easily could have won 6 games that first year. But it was obvious this was a program on the rise. But from a player's perspective, at what point did it hit you guys, for the most part, that, hey, we are going to do some really good things here quickly, a lot faster than many college football fans expected?
Yeah, I definitely think how competitive we became because in around 2019, 2020, when we had the 2-10 seasons, we had a lot of games that we should have won. We were in a lot of games where we were in the position to win and we just didn't make the play, or some crazy play happened. We were just losing those 50-50 battles that were losing us games, and missing a lot of opportunities. And you got to have those wins. You got to have those staple wins when it comes down to crunch time. Somebody's got to make a play, and you got to pull out the win somehow. But we didn't have a game like that in 2020. But with Coach Pittman going on, we had a few. His first year, we had a few games like the Auburn game, and a couple more that were just sickening. Honestly, just makes you sick thinking about it.
I know you can see my visor, but still, I agree with you. Listen,
yeah.
My wife is a Tennessee fan. I remember she's a Vol for life, and she goes, I know I go to a lot of Auburn games with you, but she goes, wow. She goes, y'all got away with murder. And I was like,
yeah.
Listen, that was that. I think here she is in the background going that she was throwing stuff at the TV. Nathan, I got to tell you, man, and Jimmy and I, that first year, I picked you to win 6 games and people thought I had horns coming out of my head. I said, I don't know Sam Pittman personally, but the way Tommy Tuberville described him and what I've seen out of him his whole career, this guy fits Arkansas like Clint Eastwood fits the Dirty Harry movies and Matt Dillon fits being the marshal on Gunsmoke. He's just every now and then you get the perfect fit, and This is a great segment. Keep going.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. There's no one that could fit Arkansas head coach better than Sam Pittman. It truly is like a perfect fit. But as I was saying, when we started winning those games in Pittman's second year, we had a couple in his first year. Like Ole Miss was a huge game for us in his first year when Hudson Clark, cornerback, had 3 interceptions, and they came into Arkansas, and we had a home game win against a rising Ole Miss team that was really good with a air it out offense. It was hard to stop, and we had 6 total interceptions that game.
Yeah.
And we started to win games that we would be competitive in, and we would pull out on top. In which we started to win more of those games, and we started to build up the confidence and really believing in the state of Arkansas and the team that we were a competitive SEC West team. And so just with a few wins like that, the team gets so much confidence and feels like they're unstoppable. And it makes a huge difference knowing that you can win these games, because beforehand, when we get in those situations and lose, it just feels like it's all for nothing and that like we just can't get it done. And then by Pittman's second year, we had some good wins. And even against Bama, we almost beat Bama. And throughout that entire game, every single player on that team thought that we were going to beat Bama the entire game, whether we're down by 14 or we're up by 10. We thought we were coming out on top, and we had that mindset through every single game of Pittman's second year of that season. We had the mindset that we were going to win the game, and that's just something that lacked. That mentality wasn't present with Chad Morris, and so I only see this team and Coach Pittman going up from here. I think they're going to be very good and very competitive for a while. As long as Sam Pittman's there, they're going to be top 2, top 3 SEC team year in and year out.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What was it?
Yeah.
What was it like in the locker room after game 2 of the 2020 season when you guys stunned Mississippi State 1 week after the air raid offense had rolled up 625 yards of passing against LSU in Baton Rouge? And then you guys came in with that 3-2-6 scheme, totally shut them down. And of course, we've seen the footage in the locker room, but what was it like as a player to actually be in there?
It was incredible. It wasn't as big of a shock to us as it was viewers and fans, just anyone else outside the locker room, because our preparation for that game specifically was next level. It was ridiculous. Players were watching film on their own time before they went to sleep every single night. The game plan that specifically on defense, Coach Odom and Sam Carter brought to the table was remarkable, really. They had us knowing tendencies of the quarterback. They had us knowing what play it was based off the guard's alignment, running back position. Like there was just so many little details that gave away the routes or what the play was going to be. And every single person had those memorized. And so it's a tough offense to stop, even if you know what they're doing, especially with an accurate quarterback. But everybody just stuck to the plan and did their job and executed it perfectly. And it didn't surprise us. But going into the locker room after the game was just very refreshing, and everybody got so hyped. And you could just tell after that win that, okay, Arkansas is something and we're going to be something. And so kind of from that point on, we got that winning mentality, thinking that, all right, we're now a competitive team. We can beat teams. And that just got the ball rolling. It just snowballed from there.
Nathan, we're about out of time for this segment, but we got to get you back on again soon. I got to tell you something. You're a great representative for the student athlete. You go bust your ass on the field and in the classroom. Dave Cody sends somebody to me. It's a winner. He just, and he said great things about you and your family and all, covering your games in high school. How proud are you? One more question. You got a lot of Razorbacks. I'm out here looking on the sales floor at Red River Ford Toyota and Win. They're all Razorbacks. And how proud are you to have worn the Razorback jersey and represented the state of Arkansas, something you're going to do the rest of your life?
I could not be prouder. like the way these fans took me in and this state, and I've kind of just embraced it completely and totally. I bleed Arkansas now, and it's thanks to the fans and the culture in the state. And there's no place I would have rather been. If I went back in time, it can go anywhere. I wouldn't choose any differently. You know, Arkansas has treated me amazing. I've enjoyed every minute here. And I really am just so unbelievably grateful for the opportunity. Being able to step on that field and wear the hog it just means everything for me. I'll be able to look back on that in the rest of my life and just be so proud every time I do. I love the hog. I love the sight of the Razorback, and just thinking that I really was out there playing is still hard for me to even comprehend, honestly. Like I look back sometimes, I'm like, dang, like I really scored a touchdown for the Razorbacks. Like it's crazy, but I'm so proud.
Well, let me say, we hear a lot about the portal and NIL, but you got the three most important things that the student athlete can get: GMD, and that's got my degree. So, listen, man, I'm proud of you and proud to have you on here on this show. And tell us real quick before you go, Nathan, and we want to get you back on here again in the next few weeks just to get your perspective on college football being right out of Arkansas. But how can people follow you on social media? I see you got a Twitter account, and we're following you now. But really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning, and we're proud of you. A damn proud state is damn proud of Nathan Parodi.
Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter at you can see it there, Nathan_Parodi on Twitter or Instagram. It's nparodi14. You can follow me, see what I'm up to. I'm not a huge social media guy, but I post frequently. But you can catch me on there. And yeah, I'd love to come on again. This is a lot of fun, and I'd love to speak again. Talk to you guys.
And thank you so much for sharing your great memories. We're going to get more into your career next time. But have a great week, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much. You have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks so much. Gary Harris joins us now. WVUA TV 23, Tide 100.9. Frank, go Tigers. Duffy is on with us up in Atlanta. Jimmy Hodge up in Knoxville. Gary, man, that was a cool segment with Nathan Parodi. Just finished up, 4-year player for the Razorbacks in football, talking about what's going on there. You are down in Tuscaloosa. You're close to that program. Practice has started this week, and everybody's wondering, is Alabama going to be in the hunt? Of course they are, but what is it about Alabama so far that's got you asking some questions and most excited?
Hey guys, good morning. I think that what has me most excited covering the team is just the potential for this team to win another SEC and national championship. I mean, I think all the pieces are in place. I think when you look at what they've got coming back, what they're bringing in, this is a team that, like most everybody else has surmised, is a team that is a team that has a chance to win another national championship. It would be the 7th under Nick Saban. So I think that's what has everybody most excited. But there are questions, certainly. There's no team that goes into a season that doesn't have some question marks regarding the football team. And this team, you're talking about all 3 wide receivers moved on, Jamison Williams, John Mechie, and Slade Bolden. And, of course, obviously, when you saw Alabama in the second half of that national championship game without Mechie and without Jamison Williams, they were a different team offensively. So you got to replace those guys, although help is coming in the form of the transfer portal and also in recruiting, and some guys that got some experience, last year that are coming back. Running back, even though, Jahmyr Gibbs is coming in, and I think people have already, plugged him in and decided that he's an all-SEC caliber player, and I think that's true. But still, we haven't seen him work with this team. We've seen him at Georgia Tech. We know what he's capable of. We know that, Jason McClellan's coming back off injury. Rodell Williams coming back off injury. Trey Sanders, I think, is going to be much closer to 100%. I don't know that he'll ever be 100%. I don't know that he'll ever be what he was before the injuries. But, he's a really solid back, too. So you feel like you're good at that position, but, you still have to see it. And the offensive line, is going to have some new guys up there as well. So there's some questions there on the offensive side of the football.
Gary, if you could hold 1 second, we're going to take a quick break, and I want you to keep going. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Gary, going into the break, you were talking about the offense. There's defense, there's special teams. There's a whole lot more. Let's go.
Well, offensively, I think I summed up some of the question marks there, although I feel confident that they could fill them. Defensively, I don't see many question marks. You can say that they need to play better. I mean, there were times last year where, that defense was a good defense, but that, they gave up some points. But basically, all the key components are back, led by Will Anderson Jr., who I think most of us feel like is the best returning defensive player in the country and a guy that could garner some Heisman consideration in 2022. I mean, he's a dynamic edge rusher. He also is big and strong enough to hold the point of attack and play the run. You're talking about a guy, with 17.5 sacks and an ability to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And I think also a dedicated football player that's a leader of your defense. I mean, he's everything that you'd want in a defensive football player. And so, you start with him. On the other edge is Dallas Turner, a guy that was a true freshman last year. People forget that he was third in line at that particular position. Chris Allen, who was, I think, primed for a huge year, went down in the season opener against Miami and never returned. And then, Sanders stepped in and was playing great. And then he got hurt against Ole Miss. And then Dallas Turner came in and never looked back, to the point that, that Sanders transferred to Arkansas. So you've got the two great edge pass rushers. Between them, you got a lot of guys in the middle of that defensive line that have played football. Justin Avoidby, DJ Dale. It goes on. And Jamel Burrows. I mean, they got a lot of big bodies, a lot of experience there. Inside linebacker, Henry To'oTo'o, he's an all-star candidate. Jalen Moody has come back for another year after entering the transfer portal, brings them a lot of experience. And then they've got some young players there that I think they're really, really excited about at inside linebacker. In the secondary, a bunch of numbers, a bunch of guys. And led by Jordan Battle, who's an All-American candidate. Those young corners got some experience last year, particularly in the national championship game when guys were down. Then you bring in Eli Ricks, the transfer from LSU that a lot of people feel like is a potential top 10 pick in the NFL draft. So the defense, in terms of personnel, in terms of ability, in terms of experience, I think is loaded. Just have to see how they play. The punter's back in Burnip. He was okay last year. I think he needs to be better. But they're confident in him because they had an opportunity to bring in a transfer punter who was very highly touted and didn't do so. So they really feel like, I think that Burnip is the guy. And then Will Reichert is a tremendous place kicker. I mean, I think he's as good as anybody in the country going into the season. And then, of course, you got Nick Saban as your head coach. So there you go, Rob and Jimmy. I think, as I said, all the pieces are in place offensively. There are a few question marks that have to be answered. I think they will answer them. And, you got to get those two tackles. But I think with Tyler Steen, the graduate transfer from Vanderbilt, and Latham, I think those are going to wind up being your two tackles. And I think Alabama's going to be good to go on September 3rd against Utah State.
Yep. Frank, jump in here.
Well, as an LSU guy, I honestly have to say that was quite nauseating having to hear that list. I'm just going to let you know right off the top. I think this might be Alabama's best defense ever. I mean, they're talented all over the place. That front line and the edge rushes that they have, that's NFL quality talent. That's something you see on Sunday. I think, and I'd like you to speak to it, I think the real key, as it always is in the SEC, is in the line play. And Alabama, I really think that, they've got a lot of pieces and they've got a lot of talent on the offensive line. But as you know, an offensive line has to play together. And can you speak to what you're seeing from this new talent that they've brought in through the transfer portal? And how do you see them gelling? I mean, you think back of Alabama's national championship years, through this past decade and a half, and the teams that really stand out to me are those ones that had those incredible offensive lines where you could just run at will. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs, he's going to be a fabulous running back at this level. I think his talent on display at Georgia Tech, it's only going to be much better when he gets to be able to play behind an SEC caliber line. But can you speak to how that offensive line is going to come together, for that first game?
Well, I feel confident that it will. Eric Walford, the new offensive line coach, is open to rave reviews in the spring. I haven't seen it yet because Tyler Steen, the graduate transfer tackle, I think a lot of people feel like will be a starter, was not here in the spring. So this afternoon, when they hit the practice field, that'll be his first opportunity to work with this team as far as an organized practice. I'm sure he's been out there some with them on some 7-on-7 stuff that the players have done. So it will have to be something that comes together in the fall, to be quite honest with you. But they had injuries last year too, and Darian Dalcourt is a center that played really, really well and then got hurt. And, missed the SEC championship game, missed the college football playoff. He's back to compete for that position with Seth McLaughlin, who played well. But I think Darian Dalcourt will win that job. And Emil Ekiyor, who a lot of people feel like is going to be a first-round draft pick as an interior offensive lineman at offensive guard. He was banged up, and he'll be back full speed. So I don't really have any questions there as far as the inside positions. And Javion Cohen, the other offensive guard, is an all-star candidate. So your questions are at tackle. There's no doubt about it. I think the expectation is that Tyler Steen is going to fill one of those spots. I mean, when you look at Nick Saban in the transfer portal so far, as we've talked about on this show, he cherry picks it. I mean, he doesn't go out there and try to supplement his roster. There's no need to do that. But he does look for 3 or 4 guys, and when he gets them, so far the track record says that they're going to come in and they're going to be dynamic. So the expectation is that Tyler Steen is going to come in and be a starter at tackle. And I mentioned J.C. Latham, redshirt freshman, who I think has a ton of ability. I think now there'll be competition for both those spots, but that's my pick. My picks on who will win those 2 tackle spots will be Steen and Latham. And so when you bring them in and you put them on the outside, but you got 3 experienced guys on the inside there, I think Alabama will be fine. Now that's just my expectation. Again, you got to go out on the practice field. You got to, as you said, you got to gel. You got to come together. And you're right, that offensive line is like 5 fingers in a glove, man. If one of those fingers is, outside the glove's not going to work properly. So they'll have to prove that they can do it. But I'm confident that they can, and I really like what I've seen and heard from Eric Walford. I think he'll do a good job as the offensive line coach.
Gary,
well, it's clearly Alabama's West to lose. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Gary, the interesting thing, I like the way Takeo Spikes on SEC Network was describing Will Anderson as a player out of Hampton, Georgia, Dutchtown High School. He said when Will Anderson comes up to the line of scrimmage, his vision and his brain is working so fast, he'll pick up 2 or 3 opportunities, mismatches, whatever you want to call them. But the quickest way to get to the quarterback or just to disrupt the play, he may just shut down the left side and they want to go to the right side. They don't really want to go that way. That's how powerful he is. But the scary part are the other guys. Dallas Turner. I mean, he is a stud in his own right. If it weren't for Will Anderson, he'd probably be getting a lot of All-America attention and all like that. And that I think also, before we go to Jimmy, I just think day in and day out, the practice at Alabama, offense, defense going against each other, special teams, that right there is better than most of the competition that they play in terms of talent, except for maybe right now Georgia or LSU. So that goes right in line with what you're saying. Again, these are our opinions, but look at the track record. Jimmy?
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting that when you look at Alabama, when they lined up for the national championship game, at the 22 starter positions, only 9 of those guys were available for that game in comparison to the season opener against Miami. And injuries are just something that you can't foresee. You can't predict. And, and we've talked so many times of how many national championship teams have been fortunate to avoid, injuries at key positions. So I think one thing we underestimate is how important it is for those backups every day of the season in practice, leading up to each game, to try to get better every day, because you never know when you're going to get called. When your number's going to get called, you're going to have to come in, on a moment's notice. And, one thing I forgot, Gary, and you briefly mentioned it, was the fact that not only we all know that Mechie and Jamison Williams, weren't available for the national championship game. I mean, Jamison Williams wasn't able to go for the final 3 quarters of the national championship game. But Alabama also played the championship game without their 2 starting corners.
That's right.
And I mean, that's a lot to overcome. And Georgia, to their credit, they exploited it. But, it's just a big factor that, you have to consider, and the coaching staff's obviously aware of it. And you mentioned Henry To'oTo'o. He executed a role that's very much overlooked on the field, and that is being the quarterback of the defense. And the fact, just coming straight from Tennessee, he was able to take that burden, take it away from Christian Harris, because Christian wasn't really comfortable doing that, and it made him a much better player. And I think what's also was overlooked about To'oTo'o last year was that he overcame a lot of nagging injuries, which prevented him from being or showing just how truly good he is. And I think he's really ready to have a monster season. But do you kind of see this Alabama team as similar to 2017 in that they lost in the national championship game, that they were so close to winning, and that this is kind of a season in which they want to show that they need to take care of unfinished business?
Well, Jimmy, yeah, I think I think that's always the case when Nick Saban and Alabama come up short. I mean, when they come up short in a national championship game, or come up short in, whether it's the college football playoff semifinal, against Ohio State or whatever it is, they're going to come back with a vengeance. And Nick Saban always talks about how hard it is to climb the mountain, but it's even more difficult to stay there. And I think he understands the challenge is different when the previous team, even though every team is different, he always says we're not defending anything or we're not chasing anything because this is a brand new team. But I think when you win the national championship that next year, I think he always feels like it's a more difficult team to coach and a more difficult team to get the players to buy into the process, even though it's a new team. For the players that were part of the previous team, they've got that ring, they've got that national championship, and you've got to come back from that. When you come up short, his motto is "Don't waste a failure," and I think that he feels like it is a team's more hungry. Those guys that were on that team last year, they had to walk off that field there at Lucas Oil Stadium, and they had to watch Georgia celebrate a national championship on that field. And I do think that resonated with them, just like it resonated with that 2017 team coming off that just heartbreaking, crushing loss to Clemson down in Tampa. So yeah, Jimmy, I think there's a ton of truth to that, and I think this team will be 100% ready for redemption. Now, whether or not that gives them the edge that they'll need to win it, we'll have to see, but I think it helps. And as far as the injuries, you're right. I mean, injury luck is so critical for any team, but even a team like Alabama with all the depth. And you said something I think that is true, and I think that's why Saban talks about the process is when you're practicing, whether you're practicing as the starter or you're practicing as a third team player, you better practice with maximum effort, and you better practice to learn, because you're always one play away from your number being called. And if you're not ready to go, it's going to impact that football team in a negative way. The good thing about Alabama, I think, is, and we've talked about this before, with the roster, there's not much drop off in terms of talent. I don't think from a first team to a second team to a third team guy, but there is a drop off in terms of experience. There is a drop off in terms of readiness to go, and there's a reason that guy was the first teamer. So if that guy behind him has not done the preparation work, it's going to show up on the field. And I think that's something that's critical for this football team, is that everybody be ready to go. And Jimmy, the third point that you touched on with Henry T, you're absolutely right. To transfer in and be the signal caller in your first year is pretty impressive. I think he's going to be much more comfortable in that role. I think he's going to have a chance to have a great year. As we mentioned, he's going to have a veteran in Jalen Moody next to him. And look out for Deontay Lawson. Look out for that second-year player out of Mobile Christian at inside linebacker. He is going to be dynamic. He is big. He is strong. He's fast. He's athletic. And he's a guy that's going to factor in, I think, as that third linebacker there on the inside. And, it wouldn't shock me, and I have a lot of respect for Jalen Moody. He's a really good player. It wouldn't shock me if at some point, Deontay Lawson is pushing Jalen Moody for that starting spot. So, yeah, this team is going to be, I think it's going to be determined to not waste that failure and to not have to experience what last year's team experienced. So I think they'll be 100% motivated to try to win the national championship.
Gary, what I think the great teams are able to do? They're able to get the second and third teamers to practice and work as hard as the first teamers, because let's be honest, a lot of times a guy is just resolved to the fact that he is second or third team, and they're not putting forth the effort. When you have guys that buy in like the first teamers, that's when you don't see the drop off, because too many teams do that. They have a pity party and they feel sorry for themselves, and they don't. You just cannot do it. And then Frank, look, last year we got about a minute before the break, but go back to last year and what happened with LSU. 38 scholarship players at the end of the season. That was crazy. So I mean that was nuts. Gary, I know you've got to get off to go do your show.
I do.
But listen, tell people how they can follow you. You do great work, you and Rodney Orr, the TV show and the radio show, and tell people how they can hear about it, because it's first class.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, guys. Always a pleasure to be on your show. You can follow me at Twitter at Gary Harris _WVOA. That's at Gary Harris _WVOA. I'm the sports director at WVOA 23 in Tuscaloosa, WVOA23.com. If you want to, watch live streams of our newscast at 5, 6, and 10 Central Time every night. Tighter Insider TV, as you mentioned, 6:30s on Tuesday, a show I do with Rodney Orr that's 30 minutes of Alabama coverage, and it's live streamed as well. My radio show, which I'm about to do, weekday mornings from 9 to 11 Central on Tide 100.9 FM. That's Tide109.com. Or you can download the Tide 109 app and get us there. So I'm on a lot, and would love for people to check it out. Thank you so much, guys.
Hey, you bet. You work your tail off, and it shows. Love having you on here. We'll take a quick break. Be right back. Let's go out to College Station, talk with Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com in hour number 2.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at HouseIndustriesInc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, hour number 2, going to be joined here in a moment again by Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Great segment there, man, with Gary Harris. God, he knows Alabama. He and Rodney Orr together packed that punch that nobody else that I see punches with. But Henry To'oTo'o, how good would Tennessee be with him still being there? How good would Georgia Tech be with Jahmyr Gibbs? Is Georgia going to miss Jermaine Burton as much as we think they are? Sure they will.
I know one thing. I want my damn cornerback back. I know that.
Hey, how about, you talk about it was just nauseating to hear that as an Auburn guy. Javion Cohen out of Phoenix City Central was a longtime Auburn commitment, but when they don't sign in December and they are still visiting other schools, when he was committed, my gut feeling was he ain't coming to Auburn. He would have already, signed and done all that stuff, and now he's going to be an all-star. That's what Alabama's doing, but it's like Nathan Parodi, former Arkansas. He's a Razorback for life. He said, Sam Pittman's first speech with that Arkansas football team, he said, listen, everybody that I need to win here at the University of Arkansas is in this room right here. You've all got to buy in because I'm buying in and my staff will, and together we can accomplish great things. And I don't like it when I hear coaches say it's going to take years and years and years, but at the same time, it depends on what the situation is. Chad Morris didn't win a lot of games, but he recruited some really good talent. Coach O recruited top 5 talent every year, Frank, at LSU. Now, you gave him a hall pass when you and Rhonda were walking away from the Superdome after the Clemson
beat.
I
did. Yes, I did. I said
for
5 years, that man can do no wrong. But I'll tell you, here's the thing. It's the love of the school. It's the love of the laundry like we talk about.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I think Coach O took his eyes off the prize. He did.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. I mean, look, let me tell you something. If he would have had the same drive that he had in 2019, if he had the same drive in 2020 and 2021 and didn't get distracted by outside things, he'd still be the coach of LSU today. And that's why Scott had to go in there and fire him, is because he saw that was not happening. I mean, we all heard the stories how he wasn't ever around the football complex. He had other things going on, and that you just can't do that. But I will say, talking about Nick Saban working the transfer portal, I knew this was going to happen the second that he complained about the transfer portal, because he was like, "Look, don't force me to do this. This is really not going to be good for you guys." He telegraphed it, and damned if he didn't. I think Alabama had the best transfer portal out of anybody this whole year. The rich just got richer by having that flexibility of people being able to move. So it doesn't shock me that he pulled in an All-American caliber running back, or an All-American caliber offensive lineman, a caliber of a cornerback that at LSU might be as good as Derek Stingley. Yeah. In the same backfield. So no, it doesn't shock me at all. And I'm telling you, it's Alabama's to lose this year. I hate to say it, but it reminds me of these teams. And look, every time that Alabama falters and doesn't win the national championship, they come right back and win it. Same thing when we beat them in 2019 for us to represent the West in the MBS. They came back the next year and won it. In the COVID year. So no, all you do when he doesn't win a national championship is piss him off.
Yeah.
And we got to deal with that this year. But I will tell you, I'm really interested to see the Alabama A&M game. Of course, they've got to come to Baton Rouge, and if they do make it to MBS, I think it's going to be Georgia that's going to be there waiting for them. And then you're looking at Kirby Saban. SEC Championship Part 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, let me say this before Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com is on the line with us. You talk about Nick Saban will telegraph things. Don't make me do it. You pissed him off. Nick Saban reminds me a lot of Tom Laughlin. Remember the Billy Jack movies in the 70s? Billy Jack was a true badass. He was part, I think, Navajo Indian, black belt in karate, special forces in Vietnam. And one time, that Bernard Posner guy, the rancher, it just pissed him off really bad. And he said, Bernard, I've tried really hard to be nice, but sometimes you just got to go crazy. And he whipped about 6 guys and stacked them up like a cord of firewood. Look, That's what the great coaches do. They try and say, hey, don't make me do it. I'm going to tell you one thing right now. We got one of the best question askers. This guy makes Morley Safer and Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes look tame because he will ask anyone the question. Olin Buchanan out of White Oak, Texas, TexAgs.com. Olin, welcome to Sidelines. And is the no tie policy still in effect out there in Texas? I love it.
No tie. I don't have on socks.
I mean, I did take a picture because I felt pretty cool getting to sit next to Olin Buchanan and Kirk Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman. The Texas crowd, y'all do your thing, and I love it. That's why Frank and Jimmy, we all know Texas and Oklahoma coming in the SEC is going to be BSC, and you know what those stand for. It's going to be bat snit crazy. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot.
You're exactly right.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Olin. So, hey man, anybody out there excited about college football and College Station? Let me just anyone, Bueller, anyone?
Everyone.
That's what I thought.
Practice yesterday,
yeah.
And that's all everybody wants to talk about. It. You know, it's a big deal that Damian Craig was working with the quarterbacks instead of being the receivers coach, and James Coley was with the receivers instead of tight ends. I mean, that's all you have to do is shift coaches around a little bit, and it becomes a huge story here. So there's so much excitement for this team. It's funny to me though. People are like coming out to the first practice, and as a media, we can be there for like 15 minutes. Basically, see them stretch. And
how was the stretching today?
Run a couple of drills, you know. And people are like, "Oh, did you see this guy? Did you see that guy?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that quarterback looked pretty good. If he can't look pretty good throwing against the air, he shouldn't be at Texas A&M."
Hey, he's a hell of an airman.
Yeah. Hey, helmets and shells will make everybody look good.
And that's, you know, do they have some really big guys? Yeah, they have some really big guys. Does that mean that those really big guys are going to be good? We think they are going to be really good, but you know, it's not like a sumo wrestling competition. You know, it reminds me of if you ever go to the horse race and you see those people along the rail when they trot out the horses before the race and you decide who you want to bet on, and you say, "Oh yeah, look at the muscle tone in that one. Oh yeah, look at that." I'm thinking, can he freaking play football? Yeah, and we won't know that for another month.
Yeah, you won't. I mean, and that the first game will be here before you know it. But Olin, what are the things that concern you with Texas A&M? Haynes King is healthy now. Max Johnson's in there. I personally like a healthy competition in the quarterback room. You never want complacency. That'll kill you.
Well, first of all, we'll take just health in the quarterback room.
There you go.
After last year, and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's great to have guys that you feel like are really good and that can compete and may the best man win. I'm very confident that A&M's quarterback situation is going to be significantly better than it was a year ago. I think the big question is, are you going to be better? Are you going to be significantly better? Or are you going to be outrageously better? But they will be better. So I think actually quarterback position in terms of things you worry about. I know quarterback is always the number one thing. It's always going to be the number one topic of conversation if you don't have a incumbent starter back. But I think I'd be more concerned with, well, are you going to still be able to have the same pass rush after losing about 95% of that production?
Yeah.
Are you going to be better at closing up on the run? You know, they're pretty good at the running game, run defense last year, but they had a tendency to give up big chunk plays here and there. Are you able to cut those down? Are you going to be able to? You think you have the guys that's going to be finally give you that big play deep threat at receiver, but are you really going to be able to develop those guys because you're counting on freshmen? Yeah. And is the left side of the offensive line going to be as good as the right side of the offensive line? So I think quite frankly, when you get to listen to your concerns, I think quarterback comes in around 5th.
I totally agree. Oh, and I think the lines, you're exactly right. I think the success of Texas A&M is going to rest in their line play, both on the offensive and defensive side, and how well they get that pass rush, because that's the big thing. They've got to have that to keep pressure on these quarterbacks, to take pressure off that secondary. And how do you see the new guys that have been brought in on that line? Do you think they're going to get that outside push, but yet still be able to contain the run with that inside that inside line play?
Yeah, see, I think interior line, on defense, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be really good with McKinley Jackson, who played last year with a torn labrum, and now he's healthy, and I think he's a big-time player. Isaiah Rakes is one of those guys that is underappreciated, because all he does is go out there and tie up blockers. And Shamar Turner, a guy that came in last year, played really well as a freshman, but they weren't going to take Jaden Peavy off the field for him. So when he got in, he played really well. So you got guys that you feel just really good about in the interior line. The question is, hey, DeMarvin Leal's not there anymore. Michael Clemens is not there anymore. They both had about 8.5 sacks each. Tyree Johnson had 6. He's not there. Now, they love Fidel Diggs. They love Tumisi Adilier. They brought in Walter Nolan. They brought in Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy. They got a couple of other guys in I White that they feel like that they are going to be big-time pass rushers, and they've seen them do things that make them think they're going to be big-time pass rushers. But we all know that, there's just such a big difference between doing it in practice and even doing it against Sam Houston or Appalachian State, as opposed to when they play a big time program. Last year they had 4 sacks against Alabama. Now those weren't always by guys like DeMarvin Leal and Michael Clemens, but I guarantee you the threat they posed opened up some blitz angles,
no doubt,
and some blitz lanes to get some of those sacks. Are you still going to have that same threat? Maybe they think so, but again, I've said it before. Everything can look good on the Carfax report, but you still got to test drive it.
Yeah, make sure it doesn't wobble, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, when you talk defensively, we all know that Elko moved on to take the head coaching position at Duke, and DJ Durkin is now the guy who's been successful at a number of different places. But what is the sense you get after having a spring practice under the new staff that
one of the reasons they like Durkin is he has some philosophies that are very much like Mike Elko. And okay, all right. So the scheme, they say, is not changing that much. Elko was really good at figuring out when he wanted to dial up a certain blitz, and he would bring it from different places. And we talked to their players, like Antonio Johnson yesterday, and he's saying, well, we really like him and really like what he's bringing. Love Coach Elko, but Coach Durkin is bringing his own, style and putting his own mark on it. Well, okay, if you go back 20 years, you can ask anybody from a player with a new defensive coordinator, and they're probably going to give you a very similar answer. They always do. No one comes in and says, oh, yeah, this guy sucks. I don't know what we're going to do. They always feel like, hey, everything's the same.
Sure they do.
So
on radio.
So we may have to wait, like you said, 2 or 3 weeks to see how they're coming together. I will say this, though. I was amazed personally at how well Ole Miss played defense last year. You had Sam Williams at defensive end, who I thought was a really good player. They had the linebacker that came in from Maryland and a safety from Navy that they were pretty good players.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't see any real standouts. And I thought their defense played better as a group than maybe they should, that you would think of if you looked at them individually.
Especially in the second half.
That was my point, Olin. In the first half, nobody would have said that, but they kept working. They kept trying to get better each week. And in the second half of the season, they were a completely different defense.
And see, Durkin, I think he has a lot more to work with here. So, if you look at that, well, are you gonna, if you're gonna be that guy, that chef on Chopped, and you got to make a great meal in 30 minutes with a limited amount of ingredients? Well, I think he did that at Ole Miss. I think he won Chopped, but now he gets a whole hour with a full kitchen. And are you going to put together as good a meal? You would think so. It would stand to reason you would. But I've done this too long to take anything for granted. I think all the indicators make you think their defense is going to be pretty good. But once again, you got to see it. I have no doubt that they're going to be good in the interior line. I have no doubt Edgerrin Cooper is going to be a heck of a linebacker. I have no doubt that the secondary is probably going to be the best secondary that A&M's had in 20 years.
You know what the toughest thing about it is, Olin?
There's still some uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yes. What is the
I just think is when you've got that much talent as the head coach and the position coaches and coordinators, is trying to find enough playing time to keep everybody happy. And frankly, that's an impossible task.
Well, they do. I will say this: they do rotate their guys quite a bit, especially in the defensive line, and to keep them fresh. And they've been able to sell them on that. Now, that said, if you got some big old warhorse that's making a play every, in a game, and they're not going to take Michael Clemens off the field against LSU. In fact, they shouldn't have moved him from the right side to the left side on the last play of the game, because he was owning that left tackle.
Yeah.
But unless some guys just dominate his opponent, they tend to stay with a
Olin, hold those
rotation
thoughts.
and say you have to earn your play time.
Hold those thoughts. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back with more after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Olin, you were making some great points before we went to the break there about this A&M team and all. And so pick up where you left off.
I'm just saying that, that they have guys that, they feel like they can do some things, and they're going to, especially in the defensive line, they're going to rotate them. But if somebody's playing really well, they're going to keep you out there on the field. And if somebody's upset about, lack of playing time, they're going to say, well, earn it.
Yeah.
If they earn their playing time, they'll put them out there.
Yeah. The best players, obviously the best players are going to be on the field at all times. And that's the thing that you've got to do is try to keep everybody, but you also can't put in special packages for the guys that if they're not really producing. I mean, that's the thing about it. I remember when Gene Chizik was asked that question on SEC Network about Justin Fields, and at that time, Jake Fromm was the starting quarterback at Georgia, and he said, "What about special packages just to get?" He goes, "No, you can't do that." Now, Justin Fields, obviously, hell of a player. He's a better pro player, but Jake Fromm, hell of a quarterback in college, and he's in the NFL. He's a journeyman quarterback. He'll probably be like Babe Laufenberg. Get a call one day when he's at the beach, drinking a beer. Hey, we need you to come for the Redskins or the Chargers or whatever. But still, I just think that A&M, the Damian Craig, I think that's smart, having your receivers coach work, because he was a hell of a quarterback for Jimbo Fisher at Auburn, out of Blunt High School down in Mobile. So I think that's smart, because having the interchangeability among your players and your assistants is critical. Just because you were a linebacker in college doesn't mean you got to spend your whole career coaching only linebackers. You need to learn every position on the field, and I think Jimbo is doing something that's obviously his call. I think that's very smart, Jimmy, Frank, whoever wants to jump in on that one.
Damian Craig was a hell of a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing, especially with a crowded quarterback room like Texas A&M has. I mean, they've got a lot of talent in there, but I tell you what, you're going to have to massage that. There's a lot of egos going on, especially with Matt Johnson coming over from LSU. I mean, when you throw the winning touchdown against a team you're just joining, there's a lot of drama that can come with that. So I think Damian Craig is exactly the person. But I think the biggest thing for Texas A&M is going to be to handle the expectations of that 12th man Aggie fan base, because and you got to think, when you beat Alabama and you have the type of recruiting class, the type of raw talent that comes into College Station like this, I mean, expectations have to be sky high. And in the back of, Aggie fans' minds, they're thinking about the disappointment of the losses that they probably shouldn't have had after beating, Alabama. So, can you speak to what the thought is of that 12th man fan base coming into this season? It's got to be off the charts.
Well, first of all, apparently that win over Alabama wasn't such a big deal since they were just in a rebuilding year, right?
Yeah.
If that was
the disappointment.
Lie I've heard, I don't know what is. But anyway,
all right,
look,
Dan.
We had an athletic director here that once said his job was to manage expectations, and he got fired because I think if you're going to have a big time program, you should have great expectations.
Yeah,
you should have high demand. And I think if A&M had one game, where they had exceptional quarterback play, and in that game they beat Alabama, and I think if they had just above average quarterback play in the other games, with the maybe exception of Arkansas, because they got beat in the line. They had a lot of injuries in that game.
Arkansas won that game. Yeah,
they won it. Now it was still a one touchdown game in the fourth quarter when the quarterback threw an interception off his center's helmet.
Yeah,
but I'll give them that. Arkansas outplayed them. But if they had gotten, and they had really poor quarterback play in that game, A&M did. But if they had above average quarterback play, they beat Mississippi State. They probably beat Ole Miss and probably beat LSU.
Yeah, we shouldn't have beat y'all in Baton Rouge that night. You're exactly right. I think the quarterback play was missing, and I mean, frankly, we caught lightning in a bottle against y'all. Texas A&M truly was the better team that night.
Well, you know what? I always say, well, what do they say? That you don't have to be the best team; you got to be the best team that night. And A&M,
that's right.
A&M has a tendency last year to get in the hole. They were down 15-0 to Ole Miss. They were down, I think, 17-0 to Arkansas. They got down to Mississippi State, and they were down, I think, 17-7 at halftime to LSU.
Yeah,
and a big part of that was their offense just couldn't get going. Now, Zach made some nice plays late, but, for the entirety of the game, he was probably average. So I'm just saying, if they had above average quarterback play, I'm not even saying great above, then they could have had a big year, but they didn't. And so they had a disappointing season. And I think as you go into this year, the expectations are Penn wins or it's a disappointment. And I think that's fair. And I think that's the way it should be.
Well, you've got to raise expectations. Managing expectations is like the people who manage the decline of the United States of America.
Oh, you mean the president right now?
Yeah. Get the hell out of my way.
Exactly.
And I'm going to tell you something, Jimmy, Frank, Olin, something that we see out there every year is people trying to make. You can't make excuses. But I'll say this: the great line from my friend Mark Green, rest in peace, one of the smartest football guys I've ever known. He used to say, it's not, everybody talks about the matchups. He goes, it's not so much about the matchups, it's about how you match up on the day of that game. That's what matters the most. And I like what you're saying, all of y'all, about this stuff, because you know what? A&M, you better think big. And whenever, look at the fan bases. You can criticize Alabama fans all you want. They think they're going to win every game and win the national championship every year. Well, that expectation, that's great, because it programs like that. You want Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, LSU. Those are the 6 schools that have won the SEC championship every year for the last 60 years. It's only been those 6. So if A&M, they've won 17 Southwest Conference championships. I mean, they've got tradition out there. Once they get to Atlanta and win the SEC championship, you think A&M, their expectations of their fans are high now, Olin? You know what I'm talking about. They're going to be running around with their hair on fire when that happens.
Well, the hair's already a little bit on fire. They're like Michael Jackson right now. But the point is, it should be. You should have high expectations.
Yeah.
If you're playing it, I've said it before. A&M has so many advantages that so few coaches before have been able to capitalize on. And I think Jimbo Fisher's capitalizing on them. And I'm talking about the recruiting advantages and the support, the financial, as well as the fan support, and all those things. The facilities, everything. They've got. I would ask any coach, what do you need to be successful that Texas A&M doesn't offer? So, and the answer is nothing, with maybe the exception of, a great history. And I say, there was a time, and you have to be old like me, probably remember it, before the 80s, when Miami had one of the most desolate football programs in the country. They almost gave up. And then, you got the right guy in there, and the next thing you know, you had a new program, and for about a decade and a half, you were the best program in college football.
Yeah.
And look what Clemson was always a pretty nice program.
Real
and then
nice.
It took Dabo about 8 years, and then they became a national power.
Yeah.
So you should have great expectations. How long did it take Georgia to win its second national championship? Like 35 years?
41.
So
41.
What? Yeah. So you should have huge expectations. You're not. And a lot of people ask me if Jimbo's in trouble, if there's heat on him. No, but you're still not paying. You didn't bring him in here to be pretty good. You brought him in here to be great. And I think last year they could have been great if not for the injuries. I thought they were on the cusp of greatness and got hosed in 2020.
Absolutely did. Y'all should have been in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I think so. But I appreciate you saying that, because when I say it, somebody says, "Oh, he's just a homer."
No.
So you can see that under Fisher, this program has made great progress. But you're to the point where you should have demands. You should, as a fan base, you should have expectations, and that coach should understand them and be able to meet those. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be in the playoff every single year. That doesn't mean that if you have an 8-win year every 3 or 4 or 5 years that you're a failure, because sometimes you do have transitional years. But by and large, you should be able to go in and have high expectations. A&M does, their fans do, and I think that's healthy for a program.
Well, and I'll say this: if Carl Childers was listening, and he is right now from Sling Blade, your thoughts about A&M, he would say, "I like the way you talk, Olin." Mm-hmm. He goes, I mean, because your expectations are, look, if you're an Auburn fan, LSU, A&M, whatever, you should expect to win every game. If you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars, billions over time in your athletic facilities and everything at your university, you ought to expect to win every game. And that's why the fans get so upset when they don't win. But you're never going to have a successful program if you don't expect greatness out of everybody, and that everybody that you sign, they better understand what they're getting into. I mean, right. You remember back in the Gulf War in August of 1990, we started sending all these troops over to Kuwait and Iraq, and CNN would go out. They couldn't find enough kids in college that were going, well, I just joined ROTC for them to pay for college. I never knew I'd be going to combat. Seriously? Oh yeah, and Bigfoot's a midget. Okay, come on, don't be stupid. I like the way you talk there, Olin. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to run. I'm going to have to run, but let me leave you with this.
Yeah,
you're in the SEC, the conference that fires national championship coaches.
Really?
Philip Fulmer, Gene Chizik, Les Miles,
Coach O.
I got my $17 million.
This is the conference that fires national championship coaches. So you have to go in with great expectations because everybody has them.
Yeah.
And in fact, if Georgia was to slip for a few years, they'd probably have Kirby, on the block because the expectations are so great, and you have to meet those. And A&M's no different than anybody else. They have great expectations, and this year they feel like they should have a pretty good chance of meeting those expectations. Guys, listen, I hate to do this, but I appreciate y'all having me on, but I'm having a conflict in schedule right now, so I'm going to have to run.
We'll do it next week. Thanks so much. Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. I tell you what, love having him on. And Jimmy and Frank,
he knows the Aggies backwards and forwards, and I love his passion, and I love his wit. I mean, he's got a little sardonic fighting wit to him, and look, he calls a spade a spade. That's what I like. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't pull any punches. And I'll tell you what, if anybody is claiming that owns a homer, he's the exact opposite of a homer. I mean, I think he holds their feet to the fire a little bit. I like that approach of him.
Yeah, you've got to have that way. And Jimmy, you spent a lot of time in Texas. I spent a decent amount of time. Frank, you have. But the fans at all these schools, he's right. The SEC national championship coaches are often fired a couple of years after they win a national championship because, look, too much is never enough. That's the motto down here, and the only easy day was yesterday. Fans want to keep winning. Can you imagine, like I heard a description of being an Alabama fan right now. It was a girl who was a fan of another school in the SEC, and she said, I was with a friend of mine who graduated from Alabama. We were watching a game, and she goes, and it was almost not fun. It was miserable. In fact, everybody there, if you don't blow them out, by 45 or 50 points, what's wrong? The other team scored. And quite frankly, my wife, as the Tennessee fan, was saying, Auburn fans, if they don't win by enough, it's because Auburn and Alabama are comparing. Look what Alabama did. Look what they did. And look what Georgia did. Auburn fans right now are their own worst enemies. They repeat bullshit. They repeat salacious rumors put out by their own boosters about coaches, and they repeat stuff said by other fans. They're the most gullible group. They're more paranoid than the people of Poland. Now, granted, they got excuses. They got Germany on one side and Russia on the other side. I mean, look, bottom line is you got to control the controllables. If you love Auburn, you better worry about making Auburn great, not worry about what Alabama and Georgia and LSU and Tennessee and Florida and everybody else are doing. That will keep you up at night, and you will lose your mind. You just gotta
you gotta approach college football as a golfer does. You've got to compete against yourself. Let me tell you something. That's what Nick Saban does. That's exactly his approach. You're not competing against the others. You got to compete against yourself.
Yeah.
And then the results will take care of that. When you start making your program better and you're making smart moves, that's what you need to do in college football.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to compete against the others and play one against the other. You got to make yourself better. And that's why you see these college football coaches that have national championships in their back pocket get going, because you got to evaluate, like Scott Woodward did, 7, 8 months ago. You got to see exactly where you are right now. And if your program's not, getting better, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And you got to make the change.
Yeah, Jimmy, we got about a minute 15 before the break. Make some sense out of this. I mean, hey, high expectations are, to me, a good thing. That means your program is successful.
Yeah, I think any implication of discord among the A&M fan base, for the most part, is highly overrated, because you never hear much talk about discord among the power brokers at A&M. When you talk about the board of trustees as opposed to Texas, I mean, it's just constant turmoil. And I think even though the expectations are very high at A&M, as they should be, if they don't get to Mount Everest, it's not the end of the world, unlike I think a lot of other places. And I think the tone is really set, at the top between the guys that really have the power, and their relationship with the president, the athletic administration, has to be solid. If it's not, it's just going to drop down all the way to alumni, collectives, the fan base. And, I think it's just really critical to have a solid foundation there. And at some of these schools you're talking about, that isn't the case. And I think that's a big reason why.
Yeah. And look, we're going to take a quick break, but think about Florida State. Bobby Bowden spoke for them. Alabama, Nick Saban speaks for them. You got to have one voice for your school. We'll be right back to talk more. This is Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Look, can you all imagine, just imagine if we put mics on the quarterbacks, and Carl Childers was the starting quarterback for Alabama, perhaps. Let's just say he was a starting quarterback for the Tide, and they heard him calling the plays, 42, 19, 17. Reckon y'all got to play for me to call out there.
I know which team he'd be playing for, because he couldn't pass up our mustard yellow helmet.
Ooh, LSU.
He'd been LSU guy before. Ain't no doubt,
I just thought about that. He goes, I kind of like them yellow helmets out there.
Yeah, they're yellow mustard helmets. I like that. Speaking of, can I have me some biscuits and mustard?
Yeah, him and Coach O doing some commercials together would be classic. Billboards all over the state. He goes, Coach O going, that's my guy. He goes, I kind of like the way you talk, Coach O. Mm-hmm. Hey, yeah, he did. Guys, this has been great stuff today. I mean, all these guests we've had, we started off with Nathan Parodi, just graduated from Arkansas, 4-year letterman up there on the football team, all SEC special teams member. You know what? NIL is one thing. GMD is another. Got my degree. I'm proud of that young man. Look forward to getting him great insight into what's going on. Let's talk about something. Yesterday, Paul Feinbaum opens up the lead story about NIL with a former football coach who's now a senator. That kind of narrows the list down right there. Mm-hmm. Tommy Tuberville. And, people saying, well, they got a lot more important things to do in Washington. Well, yeah, they do. But when you are a senator from the state of Alabama, and you're a football coach with 40-plus years of experience, Jimmy and Frank and everybody listening, you hear from a lot of coaches every single day. Okay, my gut feeling is publicly coaches, they're doing what they're supposed to do publicly. They're saying, oh, NIL is great and the portal's great. They hate it. I'm not naming names, but I know some people that I talk with. They hate it. Okay, so you can say, well, we got a lot more important things to worry about in Washington. Well, Tommy Tuberville's working with Joe Manchin. Connect the dots here, folks. Joe Manchin, I think he's met Nick Saban before. I'm just guessing. They're both from the state of West Virginia. There's some stuff going on behind the scenes, folks. And you can say that the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. That's fine. But Jack Turner, our attorney, our barrister in residence, who's on this show with us, graduated from the Hugo Black School of Law at Alabama, said it best. It was the Sherman antitrust laws. He was a congressman from Ohio. That's a rule. Congress can go in and change that. But the reality is, well, these kids ought to be able to make as much as they want. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If I'm a freshman at LSU or Georgia and I'm a pre-med major, then I'm going to start demanding Johns Hopkins or the Mayo Clinic or Cedars-Sinai pay me $8 million because I've got a 4.3 GPA. And you know what? 98.5% of the regular student body is not getting NIL, and they've got to pay back their damn student loans. And if you've checked the cost of college tuition lately, out of state to go to Auburn or Georgia or Alabama, let me tell you something. It ain't cheap. Let me tell you what these people that think NIL is just this wonderful thing. Remind me of that movie Back to School. Remember that professor that was teaching business with the bow tie that drove the old car?
Oh, yeah, the widget.
Yeah, he goes, in the business world, if you're going to build a project, how would you go about raising the money? And he gives all this blah, blah, blah. And Rodney Dangerfield says, hey, you forgot a couple of things. First, you're going to have to grease all the local politicians. And then you're talking about doing some concrete and some steel work. You're going to be dealing with the Teamsters. And I can assure you, they're not the Boy Scouts, and Mother Teresa's not a card-paying member. And he goes, maybe mafia payoffs and kickbacks to politicians work in your world, but that's not how it really is. He goes, maybe it is in fantasy land. I mean, come on, get your head out of your arse, people. This NIL thing, we the athletes are, they're not given opportunities. You're given opportunities of a lifetime, man. When you were in, you go, and Jimmy, you know that what you worked hard, you got your degree. It's an incredible opportunity for you. But the reality is NIL, the most important thing is GMD, got my degree. Okay. Let's think about this. I'm against anything that makes college sports more like pro sports. I like pro sports, but again, I don't want to have political crap spray painted all over the field or on the basketball court trying to tell me how to think. Hey, you know what? Some of these guys, they barely got out of high school, okay? They're not real worldly. They've got a lot of money, and they think that they're cool. You find people all the time in life. A lot of people are like remoras, those little fish things that suck on the sharks. That's what people do to the people that have a lot of money. Chart your own way in life. Work your own way through life. I mean, I'm just saying that I'm glad Tommy Tuberville. We'll see what happens. We all know what Washington does and doesn't do. But you know what? This is a guy that's got experience. He's from a state, Alabama, where college football is pretty important. Let's see what happens. I'm not against people making money. I'm just saying if they're going to do the NIL, put it in a trust.
They got to corral it, Rob. They're going to have to corral this thing. Yeah. They're going to have to put the bumpers up on the pool, on the bowling lane. They've got to. Yeah. It's too much the Wild Wild West, and the haves are going to have too much, and the have-nots are going to just be dying out there. Yeah. But here's the best part. Here's the best part about it. We don't have to worry about that right now. We can table that discussion for February because today
we got football.
My LSU Tigers are having their first practice, and I'm telling you what, I'm ready to put NIL, portal, realignment, conference alignment out the window. I am so ready to hear news coming out of camp on who's doing what, how they're playing. In 30 days, we're going to be at that first tailgate, and that first bowl of jambalaya, or that first bowl of gumbo, or that hot dog, or that brat. It's just going to taste so friggin' good. We haven't had it for 8 months. That's the excitement part about right now. And you're exactly right. Olin was right. Texas Aggies expectations should be high. Georgia expectations should be high. LSU expectations should be high. Florida, Auburn, Ole Miss. We all are 0-0 right now. And that's what we love about this sport. And let me tell you something. There's always a 2019 out there lurking.
Sure.
Me and my buddies, my Kappa Sig buddies in Atlanta, obviously all LSU guys who went to LSU, we always have a kickoff luncheon before every year, and we do it at Roost Chris in Buckhead in Atlanta. And when I tell you that year in 2019 when we all met, the most that we thought, any one person, we all go around the room and say what we think our record's going to be. You know what the highest record was? 9 wins. That came out of nowhere. But here's where it came out of. It came out of Joe Brady and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Terrence Marshall throwing 10,000 balls in a hot, sweaty Baton Rouge summer of practice.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. And when people step up, and you've got all the work that's put in, and then you can have this magical season, that's what's available to all of us. Yeah, more than likely Alabama's going to probably win the SEC with Georgia coming in second. But you know what? It doesn't mean that that's exactly what's going to happen. And you can have that magical season, and it's like buying that lottery ticket last week for the $1 billion lottery.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a shot, and that's what's exciting about right now. So I'm with you, Rob. My ears are bleeding over how much our beloved college football has started to ooze into professional football, and I hate it too. But thankfully, right now, the great sport of college football is going to buy us 5 months of intrigue and drama and passion and ethos and pathos and excitement, and that is the truly wonderful thing about having camps kicking off right now.
Yeah, and what we've been saying on this show is that, hey, we're getting into practice, depth charts and all. I just was saying, don't be so quick to jump on it and say, Tommy Tuberville and Joe Manchin, what are they doing getting involved? Tommy Tuberville.
They got to get involved, yeah, because the way that it is now, it's the wild, wild west. There's no rules or regulations. Yeah. There's some, but look. What's the old saying? Rubbin's racing. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Absolutely, these programs are using NIL to their benefit. NIL was sent to again give people the ability of being paid for their name, image, and likeness. But now what it is, it's a carrot to come in and transfer in. It's a carrot to be recruited. Well, duh, because there's no parameters. I remember when I was working in the corporate world, and my senior management gave us a comp plan that all of a sudden paid us ridiculous amounts of money for work that was kind of outside really the scope of what we really should have been doing. And then they feigned shock that we were actually going out to do it to make the money. It's kind of like the old scene from Casablanca. I'm shocked to hear that there's gambling going on in the back room, and Rick, hands the inspector is, 50,000 francs. It's beyond that. So yeah, you absolutely have to have some sort of oversight. It's going to probably have to be congressional before it's all over with. I can't think of a better guy than Tommy Tuberville as a senator to lead that. In fact, I'd be shocked if he didn't initiate legislation in the Senate to do that. Now, again, whether they're going to get the knuckleheads in the Democratic House to go along with anything, they can't agree on anything, much less, something that, again, in their world, that's not important to them. But I think it's going to happen. It's got to happen. You've got to rein this in. And let me tell you, who the biggest spokesman is for this? Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Nick Saban is the guy that banged the drum. I hate to give him compliments today, but he banged the drum on this a year and a half, 2 years ago. Don't force me to do this, because I'm going to be better at it than you guys are. And if you don't rein this in, it's going to happen. And guess what? It did. And look at the guys that Saban got on NIL. Look at the guy on the portal. Look at the amount of money that's going to be coming in on NIL just at Texas A&M alone. And nobody should be embarrassed for this. Nobody should be sheepish for it, because that's the rules that have been laid out.
Yeah, all we want to do is have some uniformity and some structure. Again, I'm not against people making money. I'm a right-wing capitalist all the way. But defer it, make it to where there's still college kids. You know what? and quit trying to shove this BS narrative that they're a bunch of victims. I tell you who the victims are is the fans having to pay these ticket prices for all this stuff.
I'm a victim. I'm getting ready to pay my daughter's $32,000 a year, and that's including an out-of-state tuition scholarship for her coming as a legacy of mine at LSU, which is ridiculous. I was like, oh my gosh, players are getting $150,000 educations, and they're getting stipends, and they're getting training tables.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. They've always been making money. Always been making money.
Always, Frank. And again, you know what? Supreme Court ruled what they ruled because they didn't want to mess with it. Jimmy Hodge, we got a few more minutes here. This is great stuff. We are 504 hours away from kickoff of the first college football game. And Jimmy, I don't care who's playing, it's football, and that's what we love.
Yeah, I think everybody's just ready for it to get started, but I will have to say in Tubbs' defense, we've got a lot of things to worry about other than college football, because if we don't get some of these things straightened out, there ain't going to be college football going forward. When you've got a situation in which France can count 32 million votes to determine the winner of their presidential election within 6 hours after the polls close. And then in the United States, the most advanced, sophisticated country the earth has ever known, right now in 2 different states, more than a day and a half after the primary election, you still have 60,000 votes in a primary election that still have not been counted in 2 different states. You've got some serious issues.
Yeah, we're just
Jimmy, if you count too quick, you can't come out of the back room with the box of ballots.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Well, all we're saying is that college football, I mean, there are a lot of things going on, but this is something that the constituents in Alabama that voted for Tommy Tuberville and other senators. I mean, we're going to have a lot of there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, we got to take care of. We get that, but we celebrate college football because we love the laundry, and we all know what we went through. Just spare us. Mr. Krabs, Eugene V. Krabs, owner and sole proprietor of the Krusty Krab. Again, he's over here, and he's come in, and he's going to take out the world's smallest violin for all these student athletes that claim that they get nothing.
And where's me money, boy? Where's me money?
You get back there in the kitchen there, Squidward, you with your long banana nose, and hey, little square fellow, SpongeBob. I'm the only one that can say. But look, there is a lot of stuff we got to work on, man. I'm getting fired up, man. I mean, I've been drinking coffee for 2.5 hours.
Me too. Hey, Rob, I got to run because guess what's getting ready to happen? LSU's about to put our RV parking slots on sale in exactly 7 minutes. I got to pull over and get my LSU app up so I can get my spots for Bengal 1, and especially so if Jimmy comes down and he and I can do some tailgating for that Alabama LSU game in November, I gotta get my spot. So I got a boogie. Great talking to y'all. I look forward to talking to y'all on Saturday.
Absolutely, Frank. Go Tigers. Hey, Jimmy. That is. Think about this, man. Right now, fans, you got to pay to get your spot. You got to pay to get yours. We forget about that. You got to pay for your parking spot. And you know what? Since 9/11. Universities have made a terrible mistake in doing is pushing the fans away. All you were ever told on campus is you can't park here, you can't park there, you can't go in this building. Let me tell you something. If I'm an athletic director and I'm a university athletic director, president, whatever, you better start, getting off your high horse and start welcoming your fans back. Okay? We can't tread water forever. Okay? Just because you go out to a restaurant one time and the food isn't that great doesn't mean you don't go back, okay? And in the sales business, no means tell me more. Jimmy, we're about out of time, but I got to tell you, you're like, you don't care who the game is. You like to watch football, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think a a bigger percentage of college football fans than a lot of people think do. I know a huge portion of the fan base is focused, 95% on their team.
Yeah.
But, the whole college football arena is just fascinating with all the different storylines. And, I think a lot of fans that are almost solely focused on their team should be more aware of the other schools, certainly in their conference, because
Jimmy,
that's who you have to beat every year to win a championship.
Yeah, we're about 10 seconds out of time, but great show, and you're exactly right. Hey, remember, folks, tomorrow I got a great show lined up. We got Wesley Britt, we got Coach David Cutcliffe will be with us, Richmond Weaver, and others. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Don't ever miss an opportunity to help somebody and to give back. We live in the greatest country in the world, as Jack Crystal says, the greatest country in the history of the world. What a marvelous opportunity we have to do something great. Go make it happen. We'll see you tomorrow.